Hey there folks, welcome to the Photo Video Show where we explore all things DSLR. I'm your host, Mark Puckett. So I'm creating this series called Photography Fundamentals, and this entire series is going to be geared towards new and aspiring photographers. So if that be you, then let's get started. Like I said, this is going to be called Photography Fundamentals, and it is going to be an intro into the world of photography, covering all the basics, everything that you're going to need to get yourself up and running as fast as humanly possible without spending a ton on college textbooks or expensive classes or anything like that. So what makes a great photograph? Well, in my estimation, only about 10% of what goes into photography has anything to do with either the photographer or the camera or gear and equipment that he or she owns. A lot of people think that if they just buy a more expensive camera, they're going to start taking more expensive pictures. So I want to dispel that myth right off the bat because it's not true. Under any circumstances whatsoever is that true. Now, 40% of it has to do with light, because obviously without light, there would be no photography field at all. That is actually what we do, is we paint with light. And without it, there is no photography. So, but the whole rest of the equation really rests in knowledge, in education. Because once you learn how to use the gear and the equipment and learn how to sculpt and mold light to suit your needs, you're going to do just fine, just like the rest of the photographers do. They have a greater understanding of how light works and what makes beautiful pictures because of the way light wraps around certain things. That's the reason their photographs look better in the long run, not because of the type of gear that they have. Now, as much as I'm down for classroom education and getting as much information stuffed inside our nuggets as possible, you will eventually end up getting bored photographer syndrome. So you can only spend so much time learning. You eventually have to get out there and do it. And that requires some hoe. But not this kind of hoe. This kind. You need a hands-on education. You've got to go out and you've got to practice with your camera. You've got to play with the settings and you've got to get familiar with your gear. Period. End of story. That's the best teacher in the world is experience. You can sit here and you can listen to me all day, but eventually you're going to have to go out there and do the damn thing. So let's go ahead and start off with light. Now, light makes the picture because without it, there is no picture. And there are different types of light. There are CFLs, there are incandescents, there's flashes, there's the sun, there's candlelight. There's lots of different types of light sources, and they all affect how your picture is going to look. And each of these types of light have different hues, whether they be slightly greens or yellows or blues or purples or whatever. Those things are going to affect your picture as well. You're also going to have different types of color temperatures, whether they're going to be really warm or really cool. Those will affect your photograph. The diffusion of the light, whether it be natural or artificial, will also alter the picture. Whether it be constant light source or a flash, that too will affect how your picture is going to play out. And of course, modification. There's lots of different things that you can do to modify your photograph, modify the lighting, gobos and drop cloths and all different types of things. Reflectors, there's a lot of ways you can modify the light, and that also will dramatically either improve or alter the way the light moves around in the photograph. So let's go on to camera equipment, because I know that a lot of people are always hung up on this, and this is all they see when they first get started. It's just a plethora, it's a maze of light stands and beauty dishes and soft boxes and gears. There's just so much to take in that it can really be really confusing. And you almost might feel a bit inadequate if you don't have all this stuff, and you really shouldn't. Even a smaller set like this can be pretty overwhelming and can be very expensive, and it's just all too much sometimes. So I get that. Even a small set like this, with you got a MacBook Pro, you got a couple of telephoto lenses here, a couple of hard drives, a point and shoot as a backup, and a remote trigger. I mean, you're still looking at maybe $5,000. But I want you to keep this in mind. It doesn't matter. okay? Because the cameras that you're carrying around in your pocket, those point and shoots, your iPhones, your whatever, they're a million times better than what the photographers had at the turn of the 20th century. There is nothing that they could do that you can't do. And not to mention film cameras at your local swap meets or peddlers malls, stuff like that. They're going to have a ton of film cameras that you can pick up for next to nothing. So, what makes a good photographer? You've got to love the craft. And it really is a craft. It's not just put a lens in someone's face and hit the button. It really isn't. You've got to hone your skills, and there is a lot to take in when you're first getting started. So it will be a bit overwhelming, but once you get a few skills at a time, start honing those. Start perfecting and trying new things and expressing your creativity and trying to keep an open mind about all the different things that you can shoot out there. Like I said, try lots of different ways to make your photographs. There's a million different ways, and you should try all of them. You never know what you like unless you try it out. And experiment with everything. With all the different new technology that's coming out, with all the different ideas that are being spread about, with Facebook and Twitter, the ideas get around very, very fast, so it's very easy for you to find new things and to try those new things. And last but not least, develop your own style. I know it's going to be really easy and really convenient to try and pick out work that other photographers are doing and then try and replicate that so that you can learn. But eventually, try and do something on your own. Try and figure out your own style. Leave your own mark on the world. Photography really is a progressive skill, and it will come in steps, in sections. So grow with your photography and try to digest all of your education in very small pieces. Don't try and choke on the whole thing. Reference there. Don't try and choke on the whole thing. It's going to come in small bite-sized pieces. Try not to force it. You're going to have that aha moment somewhere soon down the road, and it'll just all make sense. A lot of this stuff is going to seem very complicated at first, but once you get it, it's just going to be amazing how easy it is when it clicks. You just go, oh, now I get it. And when you get to that point, everything else will be smooth sailing. Everything else will just be details. Try and take it easy on yourself. Don't be so hard. Don't be overly critical of your work or of the types of pictures that you take in the beginning. You're just learning. Take it easy on yourself. And learn new things as you go. I mean, there's a lot to learn out there. And don't try and learn everything at once. Don't try and cram everything in and expect to be an amazing photographer right out of the gate, because it's not going to happen. So, what have we learned so far? Well, don't fret about the equipment at all. Equipment does not make the photographer. Just use what you have. Whatever you have is a great starting point. Whatever you have is a million times better than what Ansel Adams had or what any of the photographers at the turn of the century had. You are leaps and bounds ahead as far as technology goes, so use whatever it is you have. Adapt and overcome. There's going to be lots of challenges out there. This can be a little bit hard at times, but it doesn't mean that it's not fun, so adapt and overcome those challenges and make the best of them. Be creative. Think of new ways to do things. Maybe you'll come up with an awesome new way to create photography. Who knows? And knowledge is most important. Learning and taking in criticism from your fellow photographers. Listen to those guys. Anyone that's been in a little bit longer, listen to them. Try and take in that education and take it with a grain of salt. Don't be offended. So here's a pop quiz. I want you all to tell me what you think about this picture. Is there anything that can be improved with this picture? Do you think that it could be better, or what? Tell me what you think here. What about this one? Could it be improved in any way, shape, or form? Is it good? Is it bad? Does it suck? Is it not so awesome? And what about this one of a landscape? What could be done to make it better? Well, you're all wrong, but you're all right at the same time. The number one thing I want you to keep in mind here is that art is only subject to opinion. It's neither true or false, or good or bad, or malevolent or benevolent. It's neither right or wrong. Art can only be appreciated or unappreciated, and that's it. There's nothing else that can be mixed in with that whatsoever. Only you can decide what your art is. Everything else is just conjecture and opinion or BS, because everything else is someone else's opinion. Artwork that's the beautiful thing about art, is that it is not subject to outside criticism other than the artist. So only appreciated or unappreciated. So I want to thank you guys for watching this first episode of Photography Fundamentals. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, comment, rate, subscribe, do the whole thing. And if you guys like this program or any of the other ones I've ever done, be sure to share them with your friends. And I hope to see you guys on the next episode, right here on the Photo Video Show. I'm your host, Mark Puckett. I'll see you guys again next time.